So last week, you watched us take part in race 4 of the Medway Yacht Club Autumn series. For us, this is the last series of races, and in fact, the last sailing we'll do in Seahorse this year. So can you guess what you're going to see this week? Yep, it's race 5, the last race of the Medway Yacht Club Autumn series, and after the frustrations of last week, we have a really good time.
Oh, here we go. Not near fully again. It is now the last Sunday in November and it is the last race of our autumn series. Today we have, I think, 17 gusting 27 knots of wind, so it's going to be fun. I'm going to attempt to film. We can but try. Yeah, we have a no crew member today. Just very briefly, that blob there, purely ballast only.
At the start of any yacht race, there's a number of questions you have to answer in order to find the right strategy for you on your boat in that race. You've got to take into account things like the wind, the tide, trying to second guess what the rest of the fleet is going to do. Is it more important to be at the right end and maybe take some dirty air, or do you really need clean air? Is it acceptable to push a bit of tide just to be in the right place, or do you really need to stay out of it? And so on. This week, I think, if we'd had an empty race course, we'd have started at the pin end on port. You were in the tide, but it was the favoured end of the line. The race officers had done a good job of setting a true beat with a bit of port end bias. So I think that's what we would have done. However, it wasn't an empty race course. And being a small boat in a big boat race, and after the painful lessons we learnt last week, we decided it was more important to keep clean air. So we picked the committee boat end of the line, starting at starboard. Even if that meant the second row start, at least we'd have the opportunity to tack off and get clean air.
Good question. It's getting tight in there actually.
Go for second line and just get clear air.
So once you've picked your starting strategy, the next difficult bit is executing it. Ideally, you want to hit the line fully powered up at full speed just as the gun goes. That, of course, is a lot easier said than done, especially when you have to factor in things like how strong the tide is and the wind effects on all the other boats around you that affect the power that you've got in your sails. It's generally something I'm quite good at. This time, however, if I'd actually listened to what my crew had said, we'd have done it perfectly. I hesitated just a bit to make our start slightly more awkward, but we still got away with it and didn't come out of it too badly. Next thing you have to decide is how much you want to sacrifice the speed you lose tacking with the speed you gain for staying out of the tide. It's the thing we found hardest when we first went to yachts. In a dinghy, you tack on every shift. In a keelboat, we've long since decided that we generally only tack as soon as we're coming up to the mud, unless there's a really good reason to do otherwise. So this first beat, whilst the rest of the fleet were deciding to tack early to try and get over to the mud and out of the tide, we decided to stand on, sacrificing the speed we'd lose by having to push the tide with the speed we'd gain from one less tack and being able to keep in clean air.
Trying to take your winch out, Adam, so you're on the other. Oh no, it's ready, isn't it? That side, yeah. Okay, it's a little boy below. Yeah, you still got 5 meters of water.
Ready? Everyone ready?
Yeah.
Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Okay, so hard on the okay. Oh shit, okay.
I think we might need to tack. No, Ian, you're not going to make it. You're not going to make that. Yeah, from the Veneto. I think it's Gemini.
That first tack back across the river on port is always a bit scary, even after we'd left it so long before we had made that tack. But as much as Hannah didn't believe it, we did manage to squeeze in front of most boats. But there still comes a point where you have to decide, is it better to duck the boat that's coming at you, tack and try and lee bow it, or just tack early to try and keep clear air? When reefer came up, ducking it didn't seem worthwhile because it was only a matter of metres before we'd hit the mud. Trying to lee bow a much bigger boat in Seahorse is unlikely to really work unless we pull it off perfectly, so the safe option was to tack early and keep clear air.
Hannah is tacked. Okay. Okay. There you go, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, we need to think about going. Although I've got to watch this big boy, haven't we?
He's making on you, the one on the inside.
Yeah, all these boats should be faster
He's
than
gone,
us,
he's
so
gone,
still.
the one on
Yeah, it was a nice slot whenever you want now, Ian.
Yeah, we clear 28.
Not quite. Count to 10.
Okay, let's get ready.
Got a couple of little boys down here as well to keep an eye on.
Yeah. Okay, everyone ready?
Yep.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Bit of a knock.
3,
That boy when he come out.
1.
Yeah, it's gone light here. Annoying. Okay. Gonna need to
So the final question you have to ask yourself on any beat is how to position yourself for the final approach into the windward mark. On our river, this is further complicated by the position of the mark itself, as there's a wind bend around the corner of the river on which it's positioned, which often favours boats on the inside of the bend. And because most people like to come into the mark on starboard, and because that's where the wind bend takes you, that's generally where everyone tends to go.
Reefer's going. Everyone ready?
Okay.
Okay, go if you can.
Yeah, because the tire's going to take you fast.
So that was the end of the first beat. To the cruising sailors out there, I expect that looked quite scary, with all the close crosses and near misses. But hopefully the film shows the racing sailors out there that it was really good fun. Plenty of nip and tuck, place changing. It was a proper beat, so there was some good tactical decisions to be made. And we came out of it really well. It wasn't the best spinnaker hoist afterwards, unfortunately, so we let Reefer, who we'd been battling with all the way up the beat, get clear ahead of us. And being the bigger, faster boat, she then promptly disappeared. But it was a safe enough hoist anyway, in control, and nothing scary happened. It didn't last that long though, the run, because we got out into the middle of the river, jibed, went down to buoy 25, where we had to drop the spinnaker for a short fetch down to 23, where we would hoist it again, and, well, I'll let Hannah explain the rest.
Okay, so for the camera we've got 15 knots of wind. We're still with a good gaggle, still with Chips, who's the same speed as us. As always, we're the slowest boat, but we're still with the big boys, so we're quite pleased with that. We had a little bit of an issue with our pole. We had the jib sheet the wrong side of the pole up, so we had to sort that out. And what else did we do wrong? That was really only the... Oh, and then we dropped the spinnaker halyard by accident instead of the jib. But Adam is so strong.
We haven't hit a buoy yet though.
He just pulled it out with his own hands.
Hit it for the first time. My time will come.
Yeah.
Still early.
Yeah, Daryl and I have done one thing wrong. Adam's done one thing wrong. Your turn. Let's see what... Whoa, what's that? Is that a brooch?
Jive.
Yeah.
Is it?
It's brooch, yeah.
Whoa.
He jived but lost it.
Whoa.
That is the one
Oh my
problem.
God, what-
Although they're apparently boats, they all put powerful boats.
Shit, what do you do with that? You just...
You've just got to dump the halyard, bear away, and then sort it back out. I should concentrate now.
Yeah, this gust is now hitting us. Oh my God! Yeah. Yeah, maybe I don't want one of those boats after all. Actually, I'll change my mind.
I suppose you just get the...
And Ian, I definitely do want to drop the spinnaker at this mark, okay? Whatever you're going on about, we're dropping it. Right, so we've done our spinnaker, and now we're on our way to 13. Then back. A bit of a loop. Still with big boats, so that's good.
pull that Cunningham on. You have to turn it.
Yeah, put it on.
As hard as you can, Daryl, as hard as you can.
When I try to put these films together, one of the problems is often that I've got hours upon hours upon hours of camera footage to try and sift through to find bits worth showing. Normally, that's made easier because after the start, the fleet spreads out and there's not that much to film. However, this week, we were right in amongst the fleet. The whole 4 or 5 hours was good and worth watching, so I've had to cut loads out. With the true wind at 20 knots or more, lots of the boats decided to put a reef in. Seahorse, with its excellent sail controls, lets you depower really well, so we could just about hang on to full sail. And for us, that really helped.
This is good fun.
So because it was the last race, and they were going to have prize giving afterwards, it was a shorter race than normal this week, but there was still one loop to do. So here we are, going round buoy 18, heading back down river again to 13, which would be the furthest point on the course, before the long beat back home.
Can you do the Cunningham again, Daryl? Because it's still... Yeah, just all the way off now.
It'll be on again at some point.
We've just gone round 18 and we're now back in the tide. We're now ahead of Irene, which is cool because we kept being with them. Gem and I just tried to put the kite up but it didn't work, so they've had to drop it in a hurry. We're in the middle of the tide. Oh wow, that big pink one with the spinning wheel, that is fun. Zoom in on that.
Step rock, isn't it?
Oh no, he's got it under control again at the moment. Yeah, because it's not dead downwind like the other day when we put it up. So Sulas is still ahead of us by quite a bit actually. And Valkyrie's only just there though, honey.
John's trying to fly it, he's had no luck, but
He might
Yeah, well,
set it
he's
in
getting frustrated because we're in front of him, you see, so it'll work for him if he can get it up.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
Is it ripped?
No, it's just. He's still got one, John.
They're good with their kite, so
Yeah,
they probably
yeah.
will make it work for them. We'll just rely on our upwind speed.
Get him back. So we're in the tide.
Well, no tide now, Hannah. We're just out of the
Well,
way and
we've
trying to
got
keep
free
clear
air
air.
though, haven't we?
Yeah,
So
that's
that's,
what we've done. We're trying to keep clear air because
Okay, they've popped.
They're
They've
all
now
bigger
got their
boats,
kite
so-
working. They probably will overtake us.
no.
So now we're on our way back home. With the wind still in the 15 to 20 knot range, with the tide at slack water, and us managing a good 5+ knots upwind, we had a good 20-25 knots of wind blowing over the decks, so it was pretty full on at times. Many of the larger yachts put that reef back in again, but we kept full sail up. It was just at the top end of what was comfortable, but it's the sort of conditions that Seahorse really thrives in, so we made the most of it.
do anyway, isn't there?
Just keep it tight.
Yeah. Oh, you alright, Daryl? Okay.
Oh, Daryl, your gloves! Oh, your glove, can you see it? Did it go over? Oh no! Glove gone overboard. Irene is right on you now, what can we do?
I haven't got much I can do, to be fair.
No, you're right. Keep going. We're so close to leave out.
Yeah. We do it really, because we really want to be at attack when we want to attack and not be squabbling with people.
The long beat home was a proper beat. No one side was favoured more than the other. And with very little in the way of wind shifts worth playing, and pretty much no tide left, it was all down to boat speed and manoeuvring.
Got wet and actually fell. I'm hoping it's okay, but it's all back together again. Chips is back there.
Still, it's a good sign.
There's a big boat behind us, I don't know what that is.
We'll stop here for a bit. Yes.
So, we're now trying to get to 25. So now we are tacking along Gillingham Reach. Really not much water either side, so it's really short tacks. Can't say we're really gaining on anyone doing this. It's not very nice for any of us. Kind of a bit rock and roll. We're still with the big boys though, we're okay. This has gone light here, however. Can we get any more power? We're down to 10 knots here.
So this is the last of our autumn-winter series at Medway Yacht Club, race 5. And it's been a cracking series, helped of course by the fact that although the series is run in every weekend in November, in which you could reasonably expect it to be cold, wet and miserable, we've had glorious sunshine most weekends, good breezes, okay it's been a bit chilly, but it is November, the wind direction has been perfect, the race officer and his team did a fantastic job of picking courses that were just the right length, and with the wind in the direction it was, they could organise some good beats, some good reaching, some good runs, everything a good race course should have. So when all's said and done, it's been really good fun. We've had a great time. Although we only get together to sail these things occasionally, we did start to work out some of the bugs and get the hang of sailing the boat and had a good time. And just to prove a point, we won the NHC class this weekend and came second in IRC. I think that gave us a 4th and a 5th overall for the championship, which given we didn't do race 1 and we couldn't discard race 4, where we had our frustrations with all the other boats taking our wind, is a fantastic result. So roll on next year, and let's hope we get more of the same.